we asked that question. Hassani, you could take it away.
Okay, so this conversation is really deriving off of an article that Sherry actually shared, right? It was in a Cosmopolitan online, right? And the name of the article, well, the title is Why We Need to Embrace Introverted Black Women in the Workplace. So that just caught my attention quickly because it's something that I have been like dealing with all my whole career. And the writer, who was she interviewing? Because I don't know who she was interviewing, but it just basically talk about the different things that Black women face in the workplace being introverted. It's hard enough just being introverted, but being a Black introvert is just even harder. So the article just basically said that there's a huge amount of pressure for Black women, especially in white dominated workspaces, to be introverted. Um, and it goes into how mainstream media kind of has a view of the Black culture. So even when you're accepted into a workspace, it's almost still an expectation for you to show up a certain type of way. Like they want you to be bubbly, they want you to be, animated.
Yeah.
And because of the stereotypes and just probably experiences with other Black women, there's something that they expect, right? But when you're not like that, it comes off a different type of way. And oftentimes people kind of I've received a lot of backlash. And it's almost like you have to prove yourself even harder because what I'm learning is that a lot of workspaces aren't performance driven, it's more political. So when you work in an environment where it's ran by politics, like who down with who, what clique you go into, how nice you are, how you socialize. I've even had a performance review that had that on the performance review, like how do you interact with, and I'm just like, what? I don't have to go to lunch with a coworker, but
Right.
it's expected. And I think because companies have this, I guess, this idea of, oh, we're like family, they expect for everybody to interact. But we know even with family, there's some family members that aren't that social, even with the family. And that would be fine, but I think that what really gets me is that it's harder to advance when you're not, because you have this, like, people start to view you as being engaged. You're upset, they can't really figure you out, and all the silly stuff. And that's what kind of struck my interest with this article, because it's like, no, you should be allowed to be whoever you are in a workspace, and that should be fine. And I also was thinking, like, okay, the article talks about specifically Black women, but I was like, is that true? Right? Because I'm like, is that really true? Because a lot of times, we say things, but is it really true? And I kind of started to compare, like, Black women that I know that's introverted versus the white ones. And it's almost like, if she stayed by herself, it's fine. It's no expectation. Like, her performance is still being looked at. Like, yeah, she still has to produce, but at least they're able to accept her production. Whereas though if you're Black, it's kind of just like you just thrown off to the side. Like, that was my experience. If you guys wanted to share any perspectives of
I, when you started talking about it initially, I'm thinking how I'm giving you an example. So in one of my jobs, there was a woman who never interacted, never had a classmate who was a Black woman, a person of color, any different hue. So they missed out on opportunities to get to know the variety of people until she came to the city to work. So that was her crash course. And of course, she brought a lot of misconceptions because really, if you're just going off of the media, you're going to be led astray, point blank, period. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about was just the fact that if you haven't lived life and you know, just meet different people and meet the diversity of people, then yeah, you know, it doesn't matter who you are. If I haven't met different people, different cultures, and I'm just going off of what I see on TV or movies, whatever, I'm just going to be off. So that's one thing I know is a huge issue, is that the media, I mean, it's just now recently I'm seeing film roles where the lead personality type is not the sassy, larger than life personality. I'm talking about lead roles, not a friend in the corner, you know. So that's one thing. And then I also just putting this out here on the table, if I kind of take the focus off of whiteness and think about the industry types, does it matter, right? Like education, fashion, whatever, right? Like, you know, government, other government sectors. Does that matter?
I thought about that too. I think it could look different, but is it really different? Or is it the same results? In some roles, I feel like maybe when you're expected to work by yourself, maybe it is different. I don't know. I don't know. Because like my industry, right? Um, my industry, retail, it's more interacting with other people. It's a lot of interacting, like a lot of what I do. Like it's almost like you can't do your job without someone else doing theirs. So it's a lot of interaction in the industry, like the fashion industry, as you know, Latish, is like very high schoolish.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. It's in the fashion industry, it's very cliquish, and yeah, it's definitely high schoolish because yes, we're all being creative, but they there is and I've just discovered there's a line that I draw of what I'm sharing with you, because I already know the how can I say, your expectation, that sometimes the expectations of being a Black woman and their the culture within, especially within the fashion industry, I don't fall into it because that, like let's say, okay, so today's Halloween. Well, I don't do that. So if I just sit back and like and now and I'm not participating in it, but in the industry it's very big, and you know, everyone's talking about it. They want to go out for drinks, they want to do that, and I'm like, no, I'm good, I'm gonna go and do this. Then that is coming off a different way.
And you know what? That was another thing that also plays a part in it, right? Not only are you introverted, which means that you like, you know, you enjoy your own company, you like, but also as a Christian, there's different expectations also. So that plays a role. Yes. So that's another thing, especially in an industry where it's so cliquey and it's all about like, oh, let's have drinks, let's do this, let's have fun.
Absolutely. And it's hard to just go and do your work and expect them to value you and your work. Whereas before, and I'm thinking when I was even in teaching at the college level, there was a level of
welcome.
I made it.
Yes. There was a level of, even in the college level, it was still a bit cliquey, and I would and there was like a couple of things when I would say something or point something out. If I wasn't, I had to be careful of, one, I'm a Black teacher and I'm a college professor teaching in fashion. Well, that's kind of like, hey, like a a unicorn like this, just completely strange. But even in that, how I would relate things to the class and either to the other peers, to the other college professors. I had to be like mindful of that.
How so? What do you mean? Like you had to be mindful of them
how I said something, because one, I'm like, once again, like the only Black person or Black woman that's speaking for this. So when I would address a situation of, okay, now this is a little, how can I say, this is a little abnormal, but you know, like the students come in and they say this, but I notice, hey, that's not happening over there to you, or that's not happening to this professor. And then when you say something and you sit back and you just have to like look and see, like, okay, well, you know, but let me just look and observe and see how things are going to portray or going to happen. And also to see how some of the students that were not Black, how they would react. Because they saw a lot of, but she just said that and she just did this, and like it completely washed over everything that you all said because she just said that. But because it was completely
when you get
not her.
The moment, if you
let's back up a little bit. I just want to do this. I want to kind of like dig into what being introverted really is, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Start with, right.
Because you know, the difference between the introvert and the I mean, the definition actually says shy, right? It says shy, reticent person, not really releasing one's thoughts and feelings readily. But I think that there's even more depth to it, whereas though like an extrovert is more like an outgoing, talkative type, and they express their emotions. But I think that is more depth to it, because as an introvert, like you are most comfortable, like me personally, I'm most comfortable in small groups.
Yes.
Once it's too many people, I'm like, you know, I'm good. I'm comfortable by myself. So at work, you know, I'm at my desk. Like I really wish I could get like a little border to put up on my desk. Like my seat is facing the inside of my cubicle because I don't want nobody like and I have very limited I'm very limited on the conversations that I do. So when I do interact with people, I'm very intentional, and it's certain conversations that I like. I can't stand silly conversations. I don't like small talk.
Me either.
All of that stuff. So when you have the extroverted people that's always going, it's kind of like, and I really just be looking at the like,
yeah,
you know.
I kind of like just want to turn and be like, okay,
right.
But yeah, it's I also think it's not a shyness because we definitely speak up. It's just that we have meaningful conversations.
Tell it. Tell it.
And so we definitely, I mean, we definitely
now,
speak up.
Let me say about the
See, really quickly, before Desiree jump in, because I know she came in and she's probably ready and everything. But that's it. Yeah. Even in the definition itself, like depending on who's writing it, if they are affected by bias. Because really, an introvert is just a person who's largely focused on internal thoughts. Now, your perception could be somebody shy. Your perception could be they're quiet. Like, I know all of you guys aren't quiet per se. You're not shy per se. Maybe reserved, okay, but withdrawn. Some people might say withdrawn.
Right.
Well, depends on the audience. Because maybe I don't want to talk to you.
It definitely that's
maybe you're boring me to tears.
Definitely depends on the person. Yes. Now I'm gonna just say this about myself. I just want to interject. I am more shy, but that I don't think that equates to the introvertness.
Right.
And and maybe that's the reason why, like, I had to learn, like, I really had to teach myself how to, like, engage. And I tell people, when I was younger, I used to be quiet, like,
Me too.
literal. It could be in a corner like this, won't say a word. But yeah.
We get our energy from being alone. It's like during the when everything was shut down, I'm like, hey, this is all right with me. Because I don't have to actually go out. Oh, I'm great. Working from home, absolutely.
I enjoyed myself a little too much. I feel like I don't want to engage anymore, and for now that we've had the whole work from home. But I think shy is a personality trait, and I think it's
Right.
cover me chic. That, right, you get your energy from being alone, which I think is one of the is a top quality for introverts, because right, there's a spectrum, and like Sherry kind of asked in the beginning, how do you identify? Is it introvert? Is it extrovert? Is it ambivert? You can have shy extroverts, right? Anybody can be shy. You can be a shy
Exactly.
introvert. And then there are highly sensitive people who take their cues from, like, social things within your environment. And because you could be highly sensitive, people might see you as an introvert because you might take cues from the room and just notice that people are uncomfortable, or there's some kind of energy that's off, and you may just be quiet because of that and reacting to the energy in the room. So there's so many levels to introvert, and that fall on a spectrum.
It does. Go ahead,
Now,
Sherry.
I just wanted to give since we're talking about the definition of introvert, the extrovert, according to, I don't know what source, sorry y'all, according to the source online, basically, extrovert is a people person. And you guys already said, like, you gain your energy, well, the opposite, they gain their energy from social interaction, right? So somebody could say they're outgoing, which might, be the case, but then somebody could falsely say, oh, extroverts are confident.
Right.
Now, I know that's not always the case, but I'm just going to leave
And
that there on the
another
table.
misconception too is, even with extroverted people, like, some of them still would enjoy their own personal time. Like, when they're not in front of people, like, they okay with being at home, but they may prefer to be out socializing a little bit more. So I think, like Des was saying, it's definitely a spectrum of it. But the disheartening thing is, when you're in business, when you're a professional, when you're in these spaces and you don't have the space and opportunity to just be that, because you get judged because of this. Like, one part of the article talks about how you're expected to have this animation, right? It says, when we aren't overly talkative, overly expressive, and living our lives out loud as they expect, I believe our lack of animation and conversation can be misread as mean, unfriendly, angry, unhappy, and even not engaged, which that's not fair, because especially based on the space that you are trying to force the engagement in. We're at work. I'm a business owner. Like, I don't have to socialize on your level of socializing.
Right.
And then the other part of it is, because you're viewed as that, it's like, it hurts your growth sometimes. So there's definitely pros and cons to being extroverted. But I think the main point is that people need to learn how to embrace these type of people. And I think that the reason why they can't is because they don't understand introverts. I was told recently, I just can't read you. And I'm like, I'm not a book. Like, read me. Like, what do you want me? I'm never going to feel comfortable going to my manager about anything personal. If you can't help me and you don't have wisdom and knowledge to give me, like, I'm intentional about what I share and who I share things with. So I think it's not fair, because it's like, when I remember a performance review. I was told like, yeah, and it was a promotion involved. Yeah, they just want to see some excitement. And I'm like, excitement? Like I barely get excited about things, you know? And it's like, so me coming to work, performing, being on time, like that doesn't show you enough.
Right.
Like, what do you want me to do? Walk around like this? Like that's just not me. And I remember one time she was like, oh, you know, I see your you know, it was like it was something that got on like this report or whatever. And I was just she was like, oh, she don't get excited about anything because I didn't make it. I ain't getting paid for it.
I'm sorry,
Wow.
Yeah, it's
that's on the
like a
report.
report. Like you know how you get
Yeah.
reports that have like
Mm-hmm.
let's
Yeah.
say a bestseller
Mm-hmm.
report, it sold the best in the company for the week. It's something that I probably presented to the company.
Selling
Yeah, selling.
data,
Well,
selling
selling data, like
data.
Yeah.
I
It's gonna do with
presented the item to them and they had it made. I'm not getting paid for this. And you
okay.
barely want to promote
Okay,
me anyway. So what I'm
presentation.
being excited because the money is going in your pocket, you know.
Honestly, to me that sounds like control.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes my experience is this: some people are so busy and so interested in wanting to
Mm-hmm.
read you for control purposes, and you
Yeah.
know, they're uncomfortable because they're not understanding where I'm coming from. Whether you've never seen a black introvert, whether you're playing like you've never seen one, whether you've never seen a woman introvert, I don't care. What it is to me is to stay the course and then to be me. You'll catch up later
Yeah.
if you are going to. I'm going to do what I need to do, and then I'm going to show why I'm an asset because I'm
Right.
here. I'm placed here on purpose. So I'm going to show why I'm an asset, and then if you get it, you get it. If you don't,
Exactly.
you don't.
And that's basically what happens, you know? But it's just like you say, I do believe it's a control thing because people want to be able to control you. The more you tell your business, the more they know about you, the more that they could have stuff to draw from you, the more they could try to connect with you. And that's another thing. It's the connection. They want to
Yes.
connect, right? So in order to connect, I need to be able to understand you, but everybody isn't meant to connect.
Right.
Yeah, and you guys bring up some really good points about leadership in the workplace too, right? Leadership and being an introvert and having leadership roles and being promoted. You know, one of the things that they gauge you on is communication, how well you communicate with others, which is extremely tough for introverted leaders. But there are ways that we have to present ourselves in order, like, you know, we go into to the job and we have a goal, and the goal is not to sit there and make the same amount of money year in and year out and do the same thing year in and year out. So how do we exercise and how do we assert our introverted power and get promoted to those leadership roles?
And that's the struggle, right? Because honestly, so I was talking to one of my coworkers and she made a good point. And she was just like, you know, people will quickly tell us, like, well, that's just how it is. You need to get over it. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, no, like, why do I always feel like I'm on? It's like I feel like an actress. When I come into work, I gotta be on. I don't mind speaking to people. I speak to you I walk down the aisle, speak to everybody. If you have a question, I like helping people. So I like, you know, helping people. If you need help, you can come to me to get help. But I feel like my performance should matter, right? But why, like, if we're having a social party in, you know, in the office, I'm gonna go, but I don't need to be the center of attention either. And I might be in the back, but I shouldn't be judged because I'm in the back, you know. Or, you know, you looking at me to try to see, because I feel like we do get watched more, but it's not for our performance. It's to try to break in and try to grab something that they kind of like hold on to understand us better. But like you say, that we have a goal when we go to work.
That's
Yeah.
I'm
it. That's
going to
it.
work to
Mm-hmm.
do my work, to learn, to
Yeah.
grow. I'm not I'm not here to make, and I make friends at all of my workplaces. Like I have people that I still communicate with that I've worked with. But that's not my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is to advance my career. So how do you do that without getting a whole new like alter ego? Like, you know, sometimes I feel like, well, maybe I should get another alter ego. But then it's just like playing a role. By the time I get home, I'll be so drained from talking to people that I can't move.
With me, and I think from me thinking back over it, what I noticed is that a lot of the work that I did, when it really came down to it, they realized, okay, her quality of work and her work ethic is so strong that, and
they can't deny it.
Right, they couldn't deny it. And then when, let's say when I got sick, and you know, I'm still trying to do some things, and I'm trying to set things up. So, like if I don't come in, they're still able to stand. When I come back, they're like, okay, you know what? Yeah, we see, you know, we saw this, and we appreciate you did this, but okay, sorry, fly. And that was what it actually took. I realized, okay, you know what? I can't keep looking at they want me to be this person, and then they say, oh, you're so mysterious, and I'm like, really? Okay, I don't think so, but all right. And then, you know, just keep doing the work and realizing, like, I'm here to do work. If we become friends, hey, all right, but I'm here to do a job, and I'm going to do that job so well and so effective that it can't be denied that, you know what, she's a hard worker. Her work ethic is very strong. So they will begin to, you know, just sit back, and like certain things, they'll be like, oh, okay, you know what, that it is what it is. She's not going to do that. And then now to the point where they say, well, you have a lot of wisdom and you're very calm and patient.
Right, I get that a lot.
But it took a lot to get there.
I get that.
And I'll be looking at them like, cause y'all know, I'll be having to stay calm, you know, because it's just like you have to stay calm. And like Phyllis Thread say, like, we don't go to work to make friends, but I don't think that people really understand that. Yeah. Like, and it's not like you don't want to make friends. It's just like the bottom line is business. Right. The bottom line is whatever the business is, achieving those goals. And it's just crazy how people can't respect. Because my thing is like, just respect introverts. Like, respect the fact that people like their space and give them room to be able to, you know, because another thing that happens too that I've experienced is that you'll have somebody that come in the door, they're so outgoing, they're so friendly, and they are a nice person, but it's just like they get advanced way before, like you be looking like, wait a minute, what happened? She don't even know how to do this. But just because of that personality,
right?
And it's just, and then it's just like, but and still you'll have people that sit at work literally and talk the whole day, don't do no work, talk the whole day, and then it's just like, but you're at your desk all day. But and then it's crazy because then what'll happen is that because they know that you know how to do the work, next thing you know, you're doing somebody else's work. Yeah, it's like you get exploited too, at a certain point.
Yeah, well, that's where introverts they need to be able to jump in and distinguish for themselves. I remember at the beginning of my career, I let a lot of that happen because I just wasn't really sure how to navigate the professional terrain. Right. But just because you're an introvert, that doesn't mean that you have to sit back or that you should sit back and not advocate for yourself in the place. You still need to be making note of any achievements that you have. You still
I've learned that, right?
Noting, right, how your performance goes above and beyond what's requested, and recognizing what makes you unique and what makes you an asset, like Sherry was explaining, to your organization. And when the time comes, regardless of introvert or not, you're going to have to put the fact that you don't really like talking away and stand up for yourself and really assert yourself in a professional setting. Introvert or extrovert?
I wonder, Desiree, what you just said to me, that's exactly what I was going to say, something to that effect. Number one, you have to know when to speak up. And for me, when I hear you talking about you have to write down your achievements or the thing, to me, that's more so for myself. Because I feel like at a certain point, like for me, I don't do things to perform like, hey, look what I did, right? I'm so locked in on the mission. I'm so locked in, even on there's a mission, there's a company mission, and there's a personal mission that I have. So I'm so locked in on that that I have to sometimes about encouraging yourself and letting yourself know, oh, like I have a goal to build a certain program, right? So, and I'm saying to myself, I can't wait to do this because this will help Mr. Such and Such in his career. And this is going to also affect the kids and their literacy levels. Like I get hyped up on that all alone. So once those things are in motion, I put it down for myself. I achieve the goals. It is really a vision because I'm like, it comes together. It's like larger than like, right, me. And that's number one. The other thing is, Hasana, you were talking about basically being burnt to a crisp. I forgot exactly what you called it, but that was my lingo.
Yes.
Will you be drained?
Burnt.
You know what I mean? Because of peopling. I'm gonna say peopling. And I remember I had wrote something on LinkedIn where it talked about understanding your distinction, basically authenticity, right? So once I had to just lock in on like, this is how I am, and I'm growing, but this is how I am and I'm growing. And once I locked in on my authenticity, then it revealed, as Desiree said, distinctions. It revealed differences that other people don't have. And it's like, oh, I'm distinct. I have this. I'm different in this way. This is an asset.
Yes.
And once I know it for myself, I'm going to be honest with you. This is my personal. Once I started knowing it for myself, then it started to show up in ways. Now, some people are still back there and they don't, see it. And some do. But I'm honestly, a lot more people see it than you might think. And so for me, it's not really about, ultimately, it's not do they see it. It's like, do I know that about myself so that when I pack up the pieces and move on, how am I encouraged? Or am I encouraged because they recognize it or because
And see, that's the thing,
I
right? You have to find your self-value and your self-worth in your industry, right? And what Desiree was saying, in your industry,
and what
whatever
now?
industry you're in, like you have to know your value, your worth, and what you bring to the table, because that's what's going to sustain you. Yeah, that's what's going to sustain you, because then you will always draw to the fact, knowing that you know what you're doing. But like what Desiree was saying, and I believe that I never did that before, and I think Sherry, what you were saying was me. Like that's how I am. It's like when you're a good worker, like you. It's kind of like you almost could kind of like take for granted what you have. So it's just like you go to work and you work. You just do what's required, what thoughts come in your head and things like this. But I think that like I had to learn that, and it was just like, you know what, I have to learn how to put it on paper, and like you say, for yourself, because it does give you that encouragement, like I did X, Y, and Z, but also so that you could show people, because what happens is that they'll kind of like push it off still, and it's like once you have it, like, no, this is what I achieved X, Y, Z, and it's almost like having that proof in order to be like, because some people don't need that. Like some people don't have to do all of that. But when you're in a place where you have to do that, like that may be something that needs to be done. But like you say, because I think that that's what hindered me a lot. And like you say, people will see it because it always comes back. People like, wait a minute, like I didn't, like you're really good. Like, oh my God, like I'm sorry I overlooked you. But it's because they're naturally drawn to who's in their face. And I know you guys experienced this. The coworker, every single thing that they do, they telling the manager. Oh, I took the
Yes.
staple out the
I just
gun.
wanted to ask y'all about that.
I every single thing.
Yeah.
I just walked to the bathroom and I came back and I put the paper on my desk. It was an ongoing joke at this place that I worked, right? One of my coworkers was talking about another coworker and was saying like she'd be like, I put the paper down, I picked the paper up, I put it in a folder. But because they tell every single thing that they do, everybody just looked at this person like they was the number one employee.
Yeah.
Now me, I'm sitting back there like, first of all, she don't be doing nothing. And everything she touched turned to dust. But yeah, and everything she touched turns to dust. Like you don't want, like, you do not want her to help you. You do not want her to touch none of your work because everything she touches turn to dust. It's always a mistake. But people are so caught up with the smoke and mirrors of things that it drives me crazy. I think that's probably what drives me crazy the most. And I'm the one that would be like, but she don't do nothing.
So I have a question for you.
But don't you see how that's helpful?
I have a question
for you.
Oh, go ahead.
Once you start to lead, sorry. I just say, don't you see how it's helpful for you once you start to lead again? That it could look like all the jazz and sparkles, but is that emptiness behind it? I think so. Let me look a little closer.
But
I feel like it's
that's also, so even though that we talk a lot about the, the cons of being introverted, but it's a lot of pros. And one of the pros is being able to, like, we're very observant people too. So like for me, being so observant, like I could really be able to identify characteristics like so quickly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I like where this is going now.
But how does that benefit you in the workplace? And then I have another question I want you ladies to answer. So Hassana was mentioning that people who do a lot of talking about everything that they're doing, they usually get looked upon first for being promoted. As an introvert, we're typically not broadcasting all day long the stuff that we're doing. I find that a lot of time I'm deep in thought, I'm super focused, and I'm trying to devise a master plan. Do you ever find that your bosses are kind of like, wondering what you're doing because you're not broadcasting all the time? And how do you handle that?
That happens to me.
Where have you been? You've been so quiet.
It happens to me so much.
I just let the work show.
It happens, and that's why people end up apologizing, right? Because they be looking at me like, what is she really doing? And then like after a while, when they see the actual end result, they're wild, like, oh my God. And I've had people tell me, like, I was sitting over here like, what is she doing? Like and then they was like, but then when I see the outcome, like, I'm so thrown back because I wasn't expecting that, and even with like,
it's
the fruit.
Where your work will speak for itself.
Will your work speak for itself. And there's so many times, like, even because I've did visual merchandising also for a while. And it's just like, they expect you to be like 1, 2, 3. But then like me, I'm gonna take my time because there's, like you said, I'm thinking, like I'm putting things together in my head. I'm the type that I'm gonna pull everything out and then I'm gonna refocus and reorganize everything. But it's so meticulous at the end. And then like when you look at the comparison to the one who was just like, and everybody thought that they was really doing something, and it was just like, wait a minute, hold up. I did an experiment because I was told that I was slow. People always be like, I'm slow, like I walk slow. It's no rush for me. I'm not a track star. So I noticed, like, they think these people really be working because they be walking around fast. So that's what I started doing. I started walking around fast, just walking around. And it was just like they brought it. Like they really brought it. Like all I'm doing is just moving my legs fast and walking around, touching stuff, not doing nothing.
So it's perception. It's a demeanor and perception. People
They
go with
do.
that.
And that's what it is. It's really about, because a lot of people, I think, now I could be wrong, I think that a lot of people aren't really like, they don't pay attention to detail. You know, like they not really trying, like all they thinking about is the end result, right? So it's the perception of it, what it looks like. And when they can't really figure out what you're doing, then it's just like, oh, she don't know what she's doing, or whatever the case is. But I mean,
So I think that
yeah,
it's
I wonder to hear from you.
with that. Could it be, depending on the industry that that we're in? Because as I'm hearing you talk about it, since when you're in retail and I'm in design, it's a little different. Only because I'm with, especially being very creative and being a problem solver, I'm sitting back and I'm thinking of, and I'm paying attention to everything that such and such said, because I want to make sure I include that into this, and I want to make sure that I'm taking into account, let's say, how this garment is supposed to overall look. So I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about the fit model and the different types of fit models, or where this is going to be sold, and what season is this, and the color. So I'm thinking about all of that in my plan, and I am, sitting back observing. I'm thinking about it instead of showing the full list immediately to them. Does that make sense?
mm-hmm. It does, because people need to see.
Yeah,
People, it's like one of those things, like people need to see it. Like even when you talk from a spiritual level, right? Most people are drawn to things tangible because they could see it. But if you tell them a vision and they can't see it, like they won't believe it. And that's why you'll have people that when you start a journey, like Noah, nobody wanted to be bothered with Noah because they thought he was crazy. But then like at the end, I'm sure when they was drowning, I'm sure they was like, oh my God, you know. But I feel like that's just how humans are. Like they have to see it. And even at the end, once they see the end result, then that's why people always backpedal. Everybody believed in you. Everybody was down for you. But they was just like, while you was going through the process, that wasn't necessarily how they were acting. Like you weren't being supported. You know, you weren't being encouraged. You weren't being mentored, you know, and it's those things. And sometimes another thing that could come off too is that it could be like a insecurity that comes off in people also, you know, because you're deemed to be mischievous, like they can't really understand you. They perceive you as being probably like more smarter than them, or like, you know, and then the intimidation comes into play, you know. But it's all just like rooted in pride and arrogance. Like Sherry, what you said, they need to control you. They need to know. And like you were saying, like you don't show the full picture. They need to know. Like, but you don't need to know. You need to get to know the person and their work ability and trust that they can do the job.
And trust.
There was something that someone said earlier. If you want to take a little rosier lens, besides just control, but that is a thing too. People want to connect. And I know that's huge. That's huge. People want to connect. So that's why I advocate for like just being your authentic self and growing in that, so that that distinction shows up, and all of that. But I think the connection piece is huge. Yeah, I know I go to work and I'm not trying to, you know, tee hee ha ha like that. But for some people, where they are in their life, that is part of it. That's part of the deal. And I would be foolish if I don't recognize that. Not that I have to have that as my goal, but just to kind of understand that. So when I deal with people, you know, just to be aware.
Connection is important, and this is where I want to kind of like talk about even outside of the workplace, because we're all, you know, we all have other things going on as well, right? So like in leadership, you know, being an introverted leader, That was one thing that I wanted to discuss. And also being an introverted business person, where you're like the main thing that you need to know how to do is to market yourself and to network.
Yeah.
Let's what's the name of your business?
So
and can you talk
like keeping you in stitches is really fashion education and tech design, but a fashion, pretty much apparel product development. I will lead you all the way through the apparel product development cycle and help you get your products out, and also make sure your garments fit good and all of that looks great. But with that, as an entrepreneur, especially one now where I'm going out and I'm trying to get more contracts with other, companies and corporate companies, I have to do a lot of networking. And I'm getting to the point where at first, and I just realized this when I began to teach, how much I actually knew in the industry. I was like, oh, wait, you really do know a lot, because you're up here teaching people, so you know. But also within the industry in itself, the people that I knew, the companies that I worked with, I really did learn a lot and was able to mentor and connect with people. But then coming out of that as an entrepreneur, now networking. So now when you're networking, you kind of have to speak more of the brands that you've worked on, the categories, and talk more about what you've actually done. And to me, it's like, oh, okay. That makes it really uncomfortable, because as an introvert, I'm like, well, you just want to do it. But now you're a business owner, so now you have to talk about it. Talk about what you've done and give them examples about that. And that's where it's like a fine line of, okay, you now need to merge that introvert side with this extrovert, because now you need to start networking and be okay.
But this is the question. This is a question that I do have. Is it that you have to become extroverted, or do you just need to find a balance where you could still authentically be who you are, but become comfortable when it's needed to be comfortable?
Yeah, it's definitely being still being authentic, because I can't be faking. I just can't. It just ain't in me. But I have to be comfortable with saying, like speaking on the work that I've done, and talking about, okay, these are the brands that I've worked on, and this is what I can do, and actually showing them portfolios or pictures, or showing them examples of their work. So it's really like putting myself out there, but I'm still introvert, even with just sending emails to people on LinkedIn from some of my contacts. Like I have over, I think 600 contacts on LinkedIn. Well, as a business owner, I should be able to network with them and be comfortable with sending them an email of, let's say, a proposal that I may have.
Right.
What if this popped into my head, delegation, that word popped into my head. What if this is where, well, first of all, I think there's some point, you have to push through as you're doing, and you talked about that. But at the same time, when it gets to be two things I want to say, delegation, where I'm going with that, I believe, and the other thing is, again, I don't agree that we have to, I'm not saying you said this, but that we have to morph into a different personality type. But what I have experienced is being still, quiet, intentionally, really asking God, where do you want me to go? Which direction? And he gives me these steps over here versus the steps over there. And then when I just authentically be myself and say, I don't know, for me, I got to have a script, have a little, say my little script, then, it's like, that's the better way.
Yeah, that's good.
That's the better way. way than if I was all over trying to da 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 da. I'm trying to kick all the doors, you know, and just wasting energy and time.
Yeah, because like
just a thought.
What Pastor just said, you know, be who you are. When you're passionate about what you do, then they, you know, people, you know, you'll be able to communicate it well, basically. You know, so don't be concerned with that. But I think that sometimes we could get caught up in that.
Yeah.
We could get caught up in
I
it.
agree. I thought you said that beautifully, that there's a balance, and in that balance,
overthinking,
you find where it is that you're comfortable at. And I think that's exactly, you know, what you do as an introvert. I'm a curious introvert, so I love to ask questions and I love to talk and I love to investigate stuff. So I can come off as social sometimes, but there are a lot of times when I want to straight to the point. Like, I don't want all that small talk. I don't need all that fluff. I have a lot of stuff to do and I need to focus on it, right? And so I think, you know, I find that in my meetings, they're short, they're sweet, and they're effective, right? I get right to the point, and people are picking up on that. I had a project that I took over from more of an extroverted leader. He ended up leaving the company and they passed it off to me. And I was so nervous about how I would be received because our communication styles were so different. And he had been there several years. I'm still fairly new at my company. I work for Amazon. And so that he knew the language, you know, he knew operations, and I'm an outsider. And so I was really feeling concerned, like, about how I would be received, and knowing that I'm an introvert too. But I find that, like Hasana was saying, there are so many positives about being an introvert. People know that you're serious about your work. People know that you're paying attention to the details. And I think those kind of things, they come across, you know, regardless of whether you're introvert or extrovert. You know, you can be passionate about a project and be talking, or you can be actively listening and picking up on things that people are or are not saying. So,
and as far as your business does, how does being introverted affect you, like, business wise?
Outside of my 9 to 5?
Yeah, outside of your 9 to 5.
Question. I think for me, I'm one of those people who likes to recharge, right, without being around a whole lot of people. And so as an entrepreneur, I sometimes think, like, what are the services that I can provide? I could provide, like, classes and, like, those type of things. But when I really think about how I want to spend my time after I spend my 9 to 5, it's not in group classes or in training sessions, right? Like, I have to balance out my time with how much I'm standing in front of people communicating, and how much time I have to read or write or pray or meditate or whatever it is. So when I think about being a business owner, I think about, like, how can I really honor myself and enjoy being a business owner? And sometimes that looks like, for me, writing articles or writing ebooks or writing lessons and training classes, as opposed to being a speaker and getting up there in front of people, right? I just may not be comfortable there yet.
Yeah, I connect with you with trying to grab more of the passive things, like specifically like record. Okay, you're creative, be creative in the lesson planning programs, right? Business, cool. But sometimes I can get so creative or so into the weeds that I need to just move out. So I understand, although I like creativity, sometimes you just need to move out, and then you are going to improve it along the way. And that's something I have to tell myself a lot. Even though I want to have recorded webinars, Sherry, you know that it's really good to be able to have live interaction with people, to really hear what's on their heart, and to be able to, you know, like, that's necessary. So that's yeah, I connected with what you said.
Yeah, and like for me, so this is something that I think about often. Creating stuff comes to me naturally, easily, right? So I have no problem with that. Even when I first started my blog, like my mindset was kind of like create like a magazine style, because I'm like, I don't want to be bothered. I just want to write articles because I'm comfortable there. But then it was just like, no, you need to do personal style. So then I had to get comfortable behind the camera, because I don't like taking pictures at all. Like, if people like that know me, they know, like, I'm running from the camera. Like, I don't like taking pictures at all. So then I became comfortable, because I just feel like when you step out and do things, you get comfortable. And then it's second nature, right?
Mm.
But then, like, you know, what you guys, like, that's what you said. Also, I started to think about, because I'm intentional like that, I had to start thinking about, like, how do you want to spend your time? I don't like social media is a struggle for me. Like, I love being on social media, like, you know, strolling. But it's just funny because, like, because I know, as I'm thinking about how to build community, because that's another thing that we have to do as business owners. Like, you have to build a community.
Yes.
And in order to build community, like, you have to be able to engage with, you know, your audience. And when you are building that from the ground up, it takes so much time. But then I see people that I follow and I love their content, but they're posting like always, like everything on there. And I'm just like, whew, that's too much for me. Then I'm sitting there thinking, and you know, I like some of the more animated content videos. But then I'm like, some of the people, sometimes y'all be looking silly. And I'm just like, I don't know if I want to be out here like looking silly. Like, we got a whole act like going on, like we shooting a movie and all of this other stuff. But I do enjoy creating content. But I'm like, how much time do you want to put into that? And so now I'm at a place where I'm trying to figure out, you know, the podcast is easy for me to record. Like, you know, I can record, I could talk. I could talk. I might be introverted, but I could talk. You know, don't give me a good topic, I can get in with it. Like, so now it's just like me trying to figure out how to navigate this, because like even with networking, I try going to networking events, you know, but it's just like that's when the shyness come in, and I'm just over in the corner, like, you know. So it's just like but I know that in order for me to be successful, I have to find that balance. Like, I have to really be honest about that. Like you said, how does this look? Like, what do you want to do full time? Because me personally, I'm like, I want some time to myself, and I don't mind working either. I don't mind working, but I do need that recharge. Like, I need, and after being, that's another reason why, like, even with work, the commute is horrible. So you figure, like, I'm out of my house 12 hours a day. By the time I get home, like, I need those hours to kind of like just decompress. And it's to the point, like, I have to take days off to rest, because if I don't, then I become too, you know, like, it's just like, what was that? I think it was like Tuesday night. We was on Bible study. I couldn't take it. Like, I was so drained, because it was just like running, just back and forth to work, and just so much stuff going on that I couldn't, like, it comes to a point where my body really can't function. And that's the thing. Like, I have to find that balance, because that is a thing. And I think that people need to understand that, like, we need our space. We need our space. I don't need you behind my desk, up on my neck, touching my stuff.
Right.
You know, it's a real thing.
Wait, is that a real thing?
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
And I'll be sitting there like, Lord Jesus Christ, help me. Because I'll be like, what? But we need our space. I even, I don't know if you know this couple that I follow. Sophia Ruffin, I think her last name is Sherry. I think you know who she is.
Yes.
And her husband, she just recently got married, but she's super extroverted. And her husband, like, you can look at him in the videos, and he's just sitting there like, but he entertains because he know his wife. But she speaks about that, like, she has to honor him as well, and she has to think about him. So she's finding ways, like, she knows he needs his points where he could just lay. And because that's me, when I'm home, I'm just laying. Like, I don't know. I feel like the man at the pool with the mattress because I love my bed. But it's just that, like, people don't understand, like, that's my time. Like, when I come home, I literally will close my door and just be in here looking at something. But I can't, but it's just like so hard to navigate that when trying to grow a business, especially a platform that requires you to, like, I don't have a problem really engaging, like, if, liking, commenting, but it's just like the other stuff is just like, well, how do you, like, there needs to be a balance in that because people could overlook your content also and like your business and what you have to offer if you can't advertise it and market it correctly.
And I would say so one of my things that I'm a part of a podcast from some of my college roomies, and we're all introverts, even though one of them, she's like a combination of two, but we're literally, we're all like, well, who's going to host? Who's going to lead? And even we're having to come out our comfort zones of even recording. I'm like, oh, okay, well, we can do a podcast. I got my microphone. And then it's, oh, we want to record. Wait, what? You want to record? Oh, all right, wait. And then even having to go back and listen to it or to even put it out there and to market it. That's another thing that it's like, okay, all right, that I'm really dealing with.
Because I record an episode, right, and I may put a picture up there talking about it, and that's it. And although I have ideas like, no, do a video. Like, even for this live, I was supposed to do a video, but I was like, but it's just like, you have to.
I gotta say something because it's boggling my mind. First of all, this whole situation has happened because Shauna took the lead and said, put my face, which you don't do pictures like that, but I'm going to put my face. So that's number one. You took the initiative for this. And I've never done a live with, other people at all. Like, I have never. And I feel comfortable doing a live with you all because you're women of, like, you're authentic, you're integral, like, there's values that you have, and you're interesting, fun-loving people. Here's the other kicker that's blowing my mind. Hassana I'm gonna clap it up. She had just reached 1,000.
I'm like, how? What?
1,000 followers.
So 1,000. So meaning, right? There had to be some consistency there. You have some valuable content.
I don't know Hassana. I don't know her. I know she's a friend of Sherry's. But I can tell you that content has been there consistent. It's the same. Like, if you go back 5, maybe I probably started following you around COVID, maybe just before. But the content is consistent, and that means it's authentic to who you naturally are, and that is what attracts people. And I think as introverts, we don't feel the pressure to be something we're not, or to stand up soapbox. We are comfortable just being who we are, and extroverts of course too, but I think that's one of the powers of introverts is your authenticity.
Well, thank you. But you know what I think, that sometimes we overlook these things, right? Because you start focusing on the wrong thing. But that's one thing, like, about me, like, I just want to be authentic. I want to be able, and especially at my age, I'm like, I don't have time to be trying to figure out who I am now. So I always want to be authentic. Because, like, you got some people in their 50s and 60s that's still trying to be like other people or trying to find out who they are. But I'm just like, I'm tired. Like, I've been through that stage already. And I'm most happy when I'm most true to who I am.
Yes.
So, like, even at work, even in my business, like, I want to be able to keep that. Like, I don't want to have to morph into someone else or become someone else just in order to be seen, right? Because I think sometimes sometimes we don't feel seen. Introverts don't feel seen.
Yeah.
Which is not true. you know, it's not true. We are seen, but whether we're understood is another thing. But then it's just like we all have to get to a point where being understood is just like we have to understand that people will get it when they need to get it.
And some
won't, and that's fine.
You know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
So I'm looking at, I see Pastor X would like to hear discussion with both an introvert and an extrovert on a live. Yeah, that would be good.
I don't see
Yeah, the comments are here.
So the fine
no, I just
art
on my
of
end
small
I
talk.
don't
I
see
think
it.
I've heard about that book.
Yeah, it's a good one. If you struggle in networking situations, it gives you just kind of tips on how to engage people, whether in a group setting or a single setting. And it's very intentional. It's written by a female engineer, and she was an introvert also. So it has a very powerful perspective. I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm gonna read that
get
because it's something else, right? When I worked at this company, they used to do like little workshops or whatever, and one of the workshops was about the 15-second elevator rule or something like that.
pitch.
It's just like, yeah, the pitch, right? It's like if you're in the, and I feel like I struggle with that because I've been trying to kind of like come up with something like that, because if you could come up with a strong pitch, I feel like that would help tremendously. And because it's just like you getting right to the point about what you do when it's time to network. And I also think this just came to my head too with networking. I think we overthink it. And it's because of how society has pinned networking to be, right? They pinned it to be like this social club. Like you have to try to get in with but it's not, no.
Yeah.
You're there for a reason. You have to understand the reason, like what you're trying to get out of networking or connecting with someone.
Right.
What am I trying to get out of this connection? If this is strictly a business connection, people need to be okay with that too. Because if you're a business and someone wants to connect with you on business, then that should be fine as well. And you just have your, you know, your outline of how you want that to look. But I think that sometimes, like with me, when I hear networking event, it kind of makes me feel like, oh, I need to be in a space to make friends, which isn't necessarily true.
Right.
But a lot of the events are kind of set up that type of way.
Yes.
You know, like, oh, girlfriends, like we out here brunching or doing whatever. But it's just like, no, if my ultimate goal is to kind of connect with professionals in order to gain some type of, you know, whatever I'm trying to gain in that space, then that needs to be understood.
Ashley Brown had said this before. She had talked about being the most interested person in the room, meaning you go places, and if you were like, for me, I'm just not going to talk to everybody, and it's nothing to do with shyness. Like I said before, if I
if I don't want to be bothered,
I'm not going to be bothered.
When I'll be like, this one, I'll be like, I know I'm something else, but this one right here, she'll just be over there like, child. I'll be cracking up.
So being the most interested person, that to me, it doesn't say go to everybody, shake a hand, because then that's not real to me. It's if I see something with somebody, on somebody, and I just want to get to know them. I'm going to just be interested in them, not necessarily their business. Just, I want to be, maybe I'm listening. This happened, this is a real situation. I was it was a workshop. This was last December. I was in a workshop, and it was all kinds of ladies that you can get to know in business and yada, yada. We're growing. And I remember be the most interested person, but I'm not going to just shake a hand all around the room, nor am I going to go to somebody because it looks like I could gain something. It's just something about the person that I'm like, you know what? It's something about the person. So I started talking to this woman, and then next thing you know, we started talking about her daughter, and then I realized she had a preemie daughter, preemie daughter, and then, you know, we sat down. Do you remember that, Desiree?
No.
Do you remember that? There. Okay. So, so only because when we sat down, she had spoke about it. The lady had spoke out about it. And I was like, oh no, I just, again, and there was all these people to the left and to the right. But if I was to connect to her, if I was supposed to, then my having conversation with her would lead me to know if I should further engage or not, or if it was just a great conversation. But I don't really, you know, this what I can do for you. This what I don't come. This what I can do. This what I can do. This what I can do. I'm more so like I want to be the most interested in what you got going on, not to everybody, and then be able to glean if I should move forward in connection, because it's really about connections. I'm not supposed to connect with everybody,
But
and that's
that's
fine.
the thing that I think that's the key. The key is like being okay with one connection, two connections, 100 or 0, right? It's just like dating, right? You're dating people to kind of like get data to understand who these people are. When you go to these
Yeah.
events or when you're interacting with someone, it's really to get to try to see if you know if you're interested in what they got going on, if you're in, and that's where the authentic connections come into play, and that's where you gain, like, because there's people, and I do know this, and I've studied this, not study like I was in a book, but you know, like I watch these things because when I become curious, like I dig into stuff, and you'll have people who could have like 1 million followers, right? And when you look at the ratio between followers and likes, they may get 100,000 likes to, but it's just like you got 1 million followers. But then you have some, they have millions of followers, they selling all of this stuff, they doing all of these events, but then they crying on Instagram that they homeless. And it's just like understanding that you really in business, right? In business, the ultimate goal is to gain revenue, right? To sell product, service, whatever it is that you selling, whether if you got a podcast, monetizing. But see, that's the other thing too. When you're doing certain businesses like blogging, podcasting, what is the other one? Like content creation and stuff like that, that requires you to have a certain amount of following, right? A lot of companies don't even really want to do business with you until you reach a certain amount of following.
Yeah.
Which could be this, you know, that could really make you not even want to be bothered with the whole thing. But I get it because it's more about influence, right? They want to know that you have the manpower and you have the influence to be able to sell this product that they want you to sell. But how many people that could have the following and that really don't have that influence, right? If I have 1 million followers and I'm influencing 1,000 people, but then you could have someone who have 1,000 followers and all of their followers are going to buy the product. So that's the thing too. That's the thing too. But I think it is important to understand, first of all, understanding the industry that you're in and what the requirements are for the success that you want to make. I mean, that you want to reach. Yeah. And then once you do that, it's just like trying to navigate it in your marketing in a way that it could, you know, that it benefits you. And then also that you're still authentic. Because even in a content creating world, like, it's some people that I stopped following because it's just like every time you see their face, they're trying to sell something. I don't want to be that person, you know. Every time you see their face, they're trying to sell something. And then it gets to the point where, you know, even with classes and all of this other stuff, like, I don't know, it could get very wild, very wild in that arena. But yeah, I think that's what it is. Like, really being intentional, like knowing that you're going to be intentional and you can't connect with everyone because we can't.
That reminds me of you, the one who told me, Hassan, about or taught me about micro influencing. I didn't even know there was such a thing. But to me, that connects with this idea I had of having a boutique, like life coaching company. Boutique, like it's not for everybody, and it's small. You're gonna have a great experience, right, from the beginning to the end. And so, but when you said micro influencing, I mean, it just kind of blew my mind, but it makes sense because not only are you niche, I don't know if you're niched or not you, but niche down micro influencers, but they have such a high level of connection with people that if, like you just said, if 4,000 people are told about an event, maybe the event is, it's sold out, versus someone who has 25,000 followers, and I don't know whether I don't know why they're on there. Some followers are bought, like I said, some followers are bought, and they're just there for show, but there's no connection.
Because even with the micro influencing, because what happened was, like, during COVID, the whole influencer world kind of like went crazy. Everybody was becoming these influencers, and a lot of companies started using the influencers more than before, like even actors and stuff like that, but they wasn't seeing return on investment because the expectation wasn't meeting, like what they was receiving wasn't meeting the expectation, because their mind was saying, oh, these people have what they was thinking, like, you got 1 million followers, so that means that you have more visibility. But like you said, it's the engagement too, and also, do your followers really trust you enough to follow what you're trying to push? And I know, like, for me myself, I started to understand that, because it was just like, when once some of these people get to a certain point, like, they stop engaging with you'll even see sometimes, like, if you go through some people's comments, if you're not a celebrity or if you're not another, like, big time influencer, they don't want to have nothing to do with you. They won't answer questions. Like, I've seen, like, people skip over questions and, hey girl, like, yeah, all this other stuff under the comments, and it's just like, wow. So when you get to the point where you can't no longer create that engagement that's really making you successful, then what are you really doing? Like, it's like an artist. Once you can't connect with your audience, with your songs, like, people won't stop listening to your music.
Well, I like the idea of doing this again and having some other personality types.
I think so.
On.
And
Hasana, I like it.
Well, thank you. I guess. Wait, no, to God be the glory.
Yeah. I definitely think we should possibly look into doing one with an introvert and an extrovert, just so we can hear it from an introvert.
Yeah, extrovert, and just kind of see, like, what their thought process, like, the thought process, because even though, we're looking at it from our point of view, like, to me, sometimes, like, extroverted people, they overwhelm me. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'll be sitting there like, oh my God, like, shut up, sit down. And it could become overwhelming, but for them, it may be something different when they engage, which is probably the disconnect in the workplace, because they don't really understand. And I think that it's easier to understand. Well, for me, I feel like it's easier for me to understand, like, an extrovert, because a lot of times, like, they put it all on the table. But that may not be a truth.
Yeah, I think that would be something definitely to look at, and also getting to the point of introvert leaders and the type of people that they have under them. How an introvert leader, how they lead, and how they're not threatened by, let's say, team members under them who have a lot of opinions, or they want to offer suggestions, because that's what we love those discussions, and we like that. We like hearing that and having those deep conversations. But someone who's possibly an introvert will think, okay, they may feel a little threatened by it. So I think having that discussion, and also talking about the difference in how an introvert leads their team.
Yeah, and what was interesting though, I'm trying to think, have I ever had an introverted leader in the workplace? I feel like I don't know. A lot of people would disagree because I really feel like leadership is more like a characteristic to me than like a skill set. And I think people are born leaders. So I think that like I've seen introverted leadership in action. But I think that once you find your balance, it makes it easier too, because I think it's natural. Because just because you're introverted doesn't mean that you don't know how to delegate. It doesn't mean that you don't want, because, you know, like we spoke about earlier, I feel like a lot of us are very intentional, right? And we're really into our thoughts, which means that a lot of times we're creative. Like a lot of times, like we have a lot like problem solvers, you know, a lot of those skill sets that's needed in leadership. And not to say that introverted people don't have that. That's something to think about because
well, when you said that, well, okay, this is what came to my thought, and I know my tank is running a little empty because I had an all day PD. I'm gonna lie. But in observation, right, just observing people, I have, thank God for the patience that He's growing in me to be able to sit and say, okay, they possess this and that. I see that. Oh, I see that in them. Oh, what about that and this? And then, you know what I'm saying? So you're being able to see what people have and where they could go potentially. And this is just part of being well thought out, right? Just being able to sit down and patience to, that is very helpful to put the appropriate person on the appropriate things or appropriate pairings for projects. I feel like that is definitely a part of like the introvert power, is being able to just see, you know, what's what. And I don't think that's just introversion alone. Like, I think definitely we're talking about being godly women. Like, you know, when you ask God for help, when you ask Him for wisdom, plus He's giving, you know, the patience, Lord have mercy. It is just such a wonderful combo, because then, you know, you just see things, you just see projects like thrive because you have the right people on it, or, you know, eventually it'll thrive, or the person will thrive, and therefore the projects will
because you
thrive
know why.
eventually.
So as you were talking, I'm reading Dez's comments, right? And she said that she worked with an introverted leader. She was effective because
She was
she built a
phenomenal.
brilliant
Yeah.
team around
She
who
was
had the
so
qualifications
strategic,
she
and she
liked.
just kept moving up like this. And everywhere she went, she took the same team that she pulled from all different companies and she brought them with her. And she was great
Right.
at riling, you know, a group of people, rallying a group of people around a topic, but she never did much talking or much work. She had people who did the work for her, and then she was just there to support them as they presented the things she, you know, pulled together.
Because you know what I think happens, because we're not focused,
That's something.
on socializing and building cliques. I think that we're less biased when it comes to who we want to work around. Because I don't necessarily, like, I just need to know that you know how to do what needs to be done. Right. And
Yeah.
I am committed, because I'm committed in the end goal. I'm committed to making sure
Yeah.
that you have the tools necessary, right? Because I want you to be successful. Because when you're successful, my team's successful, and, you know, I'm successful. And I think that and you know, a lot of people look at introverted people as if they're not team players, but they actually are. It's a difference between being a team player and being a clique, you know. And I think that that's probably why they're successful, because like you say, it's more strategic. You have more of a strategy because you sat and thought about it. And it's like, okay, you know, I need somebody. But see, that's what leadership is, right? To me, like I always feel like leadership should be able to cultivate a team that could reach the goal of the overall company, right?
Yeah.
And even as being a
Yeah.
business owner, like, that's leadership too. So you need to have that leadership, because once your business builds, you need to create, like, you need to delegate out. You need to, like, sometimes, like, you need to hire people to do the things that you can't do. Like me, I know I'm hiring somebody for social media. That's going to be probably the first thing that I do.
You and me both.
But it's being able to understand that and not being arrogant, thinking that you got to have all the answers, that it's all about you. And you treat everybody else that work with you like they're your slaves, they're your assistants. Like, it's a difference. And once you have a team that feels supported, that feels seen, it encourages them, which makes them work harder. And I don't think that companies really understand that. Whether you, like, I get the fact that you could sit at Daisy's desk all day and chop it up about your kids and your family, your vacations and stuff like that. But that's not helping somebody that doesn't necessarily want to engage in those conversations, but they really want to grow and they need the support to be able to do that. But you shy away from developing them because you're too busy trying to understand them and trying to figure out what they do on the weekends.
Absolutely.
Because if they want to hear about my weekends, they're going to be very bored. Like, I'm doing them a favor. I'm doing you a favor, because if you want to hear about my bed, then I don't know what else to tell you. And that's the thing. Like, some people don't have that much excitement going on to be like, I don't know, just let people be who they are.
So I just want to ask the viewers there, are there any questions you have or any suggestions for future lives, as this is our first live? And, we just want to take the show on the road. Look at me, Hassan. I'm trying to be a manager now. Let me try to take the show on the road.
But the thing is, it's just like when you have conversations that's fruitful, like, that's the kind of conversations that I like to engage in. Fruitful conversations for help people grow and help us understand each other and people more.
Yeah.
So I definitely.
What, hour and a half? It was just smooth and it just went. See, look at that. I know somebody didn't know.
Enjoyed you all.
Oh, I wish I could see.
Oh, you can't see the comment.
Make sure you save this, Hasana.
Oh, she can.
I can.
Can we save this so we can post it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I got
Hasana
to figure
can.
that out, because I'm not.
Oh Lord. Just
Sherry, you
make
know
sure
how
you move very slowly
you
when
know
it's
how
in.
to save it, don't you?
I do, but you're hosting it, so
Okay.
it's gonna ask you.
I plan on saving it.
Yes, please save it so you can post it, and then we can post it and share it. But so definitely we need to do this again, and
Thank you,
yes,
ladies.
it was fun. You're welcome. Thank you guys for participating. Thank you so much. It was fun.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Until next time.
Yes.
Okay.
She left me alone. I gotta call her. I gotta figure out how to save this.